Futbol 2-1 in EPL match day 1, including a big cash on the Chelsea-Liverpool draw. But, Nicky Futbol's not one to pat himself on the back. He doesn't pat. He dances. All right, some Prem bets for match day 2. We talked about this game with Anthony Dabbundo earlier in the show. I mentioned it earlier this week. Really interesting betting market with Brighton and Wolves. Wolves, I bet to be relegated. They performed pretty well against Manchester United. For me, that was a lot more about Man U than it was about Wolves. Man U being bad in that game. Brighton was up to like minus 145, minus 150. Then the Monday game happens with Wolves and United, and the Wolves get bet, and Brighton goes back down to about minus 105. I think this is wrong. I'm going to lay 105 with Brighton here. Brighton minus 105 on the road at Wolves. I think Brighton get the job done, get the 3 points at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Another game we touched on with Dabbundo is Tottenham and Manchester United. He likes Tottenham in the game. I don't want to go that far here, but watching the MVC coverage, reading about Tottenham and Ange Ball, what they're doing right now, they are playing a high wire act, basically, where they are leaving their defense stretched really thin and trying to put tons of offensive pressure on the opposition. And with their defense being what it is, James Maddison kind of pulling the strings, 2 assists, 10 plus assists, looks really good. With their defense being what it is, Manchester United's defense could have given up a bunch of goals to Wolves on Monday. This is an easy bet for me on the over. Now 2.5 and 3 doesn't exist anymore. You can bet over 3, minus 115. I think you push this at worst. So if that's the only bet you can make over 3, I would make it. I guess you could lay a massive number over 2.5. I'd rather just bet over 3. I feel like you push it worst. I think this game goes over Tottenham and Manchester United. We talked about Newcastle and Manchester City. There was literally this line has moved $1 in favor of Newcastle. After, Manchester City played in the Super Cup against Sevilla, they won that game. Kevin De Bruyne out for 3 to 4 months, and Newcastle looking really good. I'm looking for Newcastle plus 1.5. Plus 1 right now is about minus 130. I think Newcastle keep this game close, if not win it. But it is still Manchester City at the Etihad at a short number. So I'm looking for ways to play Newcastle. I think Anthony might have talked me out of my 3-team moneyline parlay. The fact that he's on Everton scares me a little bit. And Aston Villa did get shelled in the opener by Newcastle. I do think Aston Villa bounces back here against lesser competition with Everton. I don't know if Everton could score in this game. So, F it. We'll have Aston Villa in it. 3-team moneyline parlay. Give me Arsenal, Chelsea against West Ham. Absolutely love it. Chelsea looked great against Liverpool, and Aston Villa against Everton. Arsenal, Chelsea, Villa pays about plus 400 to wrap up Nicky Futbol's bets for match day 2 in the English Premier League.
I know there's a ton of Premier League that Nick wants to do with you. He was reading you his bets before we came back for this segment, and there were a lot of them, and you had thoughts on all of them. So we'll definitely save a ton of time for that. But just to pay off kind of the coverage of the Women's World Cup that you've been doing on our show, the bets that you've been giving out, I'm sure people have been following this. It's obviously very early in the morning East Coast time, middle of the night, depending on where you are. But there are 2 matches left. There's the third place match, right, and the final. The third place match is Saturday morning, very early, Sweden and Australia, with Sweden a very small favorite to finish third. And then Spain and England, almost like a virtual coin flip in terms of the betting market in the Women's World Cup final, and that's on Sunday morning. So either match, Sweden, Australia for third place, Spain, England to win the Women's World Cup. Any bets for you in either of those matches?
Yeah, I've got nothing on the third place game. Sweden at the end of a long tournament, not necessarily as motivated here, whereas Australia at home, Sam Kerr, their best player, finally looked fit and at her best against the English. That's the big key for them. No bet for me, though. I do like Spain in the final. Spain, if you look at the underlying numbers, has been the clear best team in this tournament. Expected goal difference, creating over 3 XG per game, second best defense in the tournament, behind only the United States, who went out. And so they've been dominant at both ends of the pitch. And look, they also played a much tougher schedule than England. If you look at their opponents, pretty much controlled both matches against the Dutch and the Swedes. And they're going to really take it to England and want to have a lot of possession. England has been the overwhelming favorite in its first 2 knockout matches, and then was a solid favorite in its third. But they played teams who want to give England the ball. I think it kind of changes tactically. England, as good as they are defensively, has still not looked at its best offensively, and that's my big criticism of them. They've actually been the 9th best attack in this tournament per shots per 90 and XG per 90. So from a tactical point of view and from a prior point of view, I understand why England is so well loved by the market. They won the Euros last year. They have the best manager, and they've been very good. But Spain has reached a much higher ceiling in this tournament. and I think they're the better team. So I like Spain to. I bet them draw no bet because I just really don't want penalties to happen to me. So draw no bet is the 90-minute only line. So if we get to pens, I don't want to be laying minus 120 in a penalty shootout against. I do think England has the better goalie, so that could matter if we get to shootouts.
So now we know, because I think Coach knows.
Justin Fields is gonna play. Maybe a quarter, maybe a little more. He is gonna start.
And you know what? They're looking for situations.
Looking for situations. Aren't we all? Yeah.
Aren't we all? We got a situation. To me, that sounds like Fields is playing into the second quarter here. And we know Richardson's going to play in this game for Indianapolis. So, Ken, now with that information and knowledge in tow, does that change how you feel about this game? Colts laying 3.5 against the Bears, 40.5 the total.
Yeah, it should. I'm trying to process the information kind of in real time. During the break, I was like, two different questions, I guess. Like, where do you think the market's going to go? And then what do you think is going to happen in the game? My first thought of like kind of a what do you think is going to happen in the game is like, I'm going to get the Bears might be +3 in the first half. Like, is the first half open
that's
already?
My thought also. I will look. I will let you know in a second.
I don't know if sometimes the first half doesn't open until the day of the game in places. So like, like
correct. It's not open.
So the problem is like they're going to say he's going to play. The market's going to go away from 3.5 juice toward Indianapolis, and it's never going to be 3 in the first half. It's probably going to be like 1.5, 2 or something like that. But even still, like getting a tie on Bears in the first half being a win, with Fields playing a lot of the time against Anthony Richardson, seems like a pretty good idea for a preseason game. So yeah, I mean, I think, provided this market doesn't go crazy and the Bears don't end up being favored or something, or favored in the first half, I think plus on the Bears in the first half, based off that reporting, is a pretty good idea.
I could not agree more. That's my thought as well. Bears first half now, once this Fields news is officially announced, and I think we feel pretty... All right, so... Yeah, you're right. The first half market's not going to be there. It's not like you can get ahead of the move now.
Nope.
Probably not worth it to take the 3 and 2.5.
Do you think it goes to 2.5? Do you want to try to middle 3 in this game?
What do you think? Not what do you think do I want to middle it? What do you think it goes to?
3 or 2.5, but I don't know which one.
I think it goes to 2.5. If he's going to play a quarter, the Colts can't be 3.
But are they? Is that going to be public or just that he's going to play?
My sense is that like if Coach is saying that with us, then he's not the only one that knows.
Sure.
Coach is going to say it in other media appearances that he makes, and other people will say it also. Like I don't think that's like. I would love for that to be like a You Bet or You Bet exclusive. Also, like a lot of people listen to and watch the show, and we'll also have that now.
Well, for now it is. Until he gets asked that at like a bunch of other places, and then reporters hear that and they say like, "Oh, according to so." All right.
Do that again.
According to all right. I feel like if you're gonna bet Bears 3.5 right now, I think you're making like aren't you like we get betting advice? Isn't Bears plus 3.5 a really good bet right now?
Yes.
Because you're making a bet with the understanding that you're betting a number that you don't think will be there on the day of the game, and
like it's not
based
going
on
to be,
that,
right?
Okay, like Fields plays a quarter. How can this number possibly be Colts 3.5 if that's the case?
I guess it's just like if it's okay, like we like Minshew and Ellinger are that much better than like PJ Walker and like and the catalog.
But I think that's just okay. Cool. The Colts are still favored, and it's still 2.5 or 3. Like it's not some seismic move that's looming here. I think a sign of where we're headed is this game opened 2 and got bet out probably on Richardson with no understanding of what the Bears were going to do, with like a chance Fields plays and a chance he doesn't play. So the original opener was 2. Not that has to be like it's just some guy's opinion, but like I think if both guys are going to play, why don't we just head back there again? Why doesn't that just happen? The move from 2 to 3.5 is Richardson. Like that's and like that you're going to get the full Colts depth chart. Okay, cool. Now you get the full Bears depth chart and we move back again. Like, look at what happened with the Bills-Steelers game. And that's not what I think is going to happen in the game. That's like just is 3.5 going to be there the day of the game? It seems pretty unlikely. I don't know if it might just close 3 and you just made a valuable bet. Yeah.
I'm betting it. Okay.
I just think it's really fun to be like, in the game, here's what I think is going to happen. But it's also fun on a betting show to be like, hey, it's 3.5, and I don't think it's going to be 3.5 on the day, which has nothing to do with football. Absolutely nothing to do with football.
And again, if you're new to the show, new listener, new viewer, thank you very much for joining us. I think what you'll learn, even if you don't think so now, is that the second thing that Ken said there, the latter as opposed to the former, I now find to be more fun than saying, well, here's what I think is going to happen in the game. It's, well, here's what I think the number is going to close. I now find that to be more fun. And I think you will as well as you stick with us here on You Better You Bet on the BetQL Network. Ken, you want to give us like a minute here on National League Rookie of the Year before we bring Jake in to give us some baseball bets for tonight? Some interesting stuff going on in this betting market.
Yeah, it's rare to have an award market taken off the board everywhere because it's perceived as over by the sports books, and then only for them to reopen it several weeks later. And that's what's happened in this market. Corbin Carroll was a very large favorite. He's still a very big favorite, but I guess the race was deemed over, so it was pulled like AL MVP with Ohtani. And as I said on the air multiple times in the last couple of weeks, it's not over yet. And you still have to pay attention because in case Corbin Carroll plays poorly or someone else plays very well or Corbin Carroll is pulled because of his shoulder nagging injury that's obviously kind of drove everybody crazy a couple months ago, you got to still pay attention. And all that's happening is Corbin Carroll is still continuing to not hit particularly well. Had a couple hits the other night. And Matt McLain of the Reds continues to hit extremely well in less games. In B WAR, the baseball reference WAR projection, which I just said really weirdly there, McLain is only a half win behind Corbin Carroll now. I think it's like 0.6 or 0.7 maybe 0.5 by now, with 35 games left. You can make that up in a week. Corbin Carroll has not built any kind of lead. His WAR projection has stayed exactly the same for 2 months. He had a miserable month at the plate. If the Diamondbacks are out of it, I think it is possible that they will also sit Corbin Carroll, who has kind of the Fernando Tatis Jr. shoulder injury that can like pop out of the socket at any moment. He's the future of your franchise. You won't make the playoffs. So like, are we sure he's playing in September? Definitely. And if he doesn't, McLain just wins. So, I mean, I bought some Matt McLain earlier today. Like there were 15s, 14s, and 11. Like I bought a bunch of it thinking that there's almost nowhere for it to go but down now that the market's reopened on this. And having like a lot of Carroll had to cover that. So this is a race to follow. Like this is not over. It's not even close to over. It actually might get very hotly contested in the next couple weeks, provided Carroll doesn't hit a bunch of home runs coming up soon.